Dre, is there any thoughts that come to mind uh, after witnessing however much of the game Monday night that you did? Wasn't any reason to watch past a certain point, that's for
Right.
sure. But I don't know that anyone predicted that kind of annihilation.
Yeah. Oh man. It's one of those things where it was obvious going into the game that it was a lopsided matchup, right? Um, I believe that both well, it's obvious that Ohio State would have made a better game because they took Georgia to the wire. Um, but even Michigan would have made it, I believe, a more compelling game. Would they have won? I don't think so, because I think Georgia showed that maybe throughout the year they were bored, despite them saying that their coach said people thought they'd be 7-5. Whatever. I don't know anybody who said that in the country,
Yeah.
but maybe that's some internal thing they did to trick themselves. Um, but it definitely takes you back because it shows you just how far you are away. At least I'm speaking as a Michigan fan, where I'm like, okay, I know 9 times out of 10 we play TCU, we still win that football game. We beat ourselves a ton. Um, Even if you just take away some of the self-inflicted mistakes, we still win that football game, and we still without playing our best, right? But we're not ready for that. And I think this past Georgia team wasn't quite as dynamic as the year before, but they're still a couple touchdowns better than Michigan and better than I don't know what 97, 98% of the country. There's maybe only a handful, well, not even a handful, maybe 2 or 3 teams that can really compete on that level. And maybe Ohio State is one of them. Maybe Ohio State is built more for an SEC style game than a Big Ten game, and maybe that's like the secret code that Michigan and Harbaugh figured out that they can't play this ground and pound, physical Big Ten type football game. But when you get on that type of display, uh, and it's SEC style football, speed, space, athleticism at its height. Ohio State is able to be one of those teams that can compete. Is that kind of how you're looking at it? Because when I look at that speed, when I look at the speed difference, I don't see guys on our team, at least enough guys, that have the speed like a Georgia has. You know, but I see that with Ohio State. But maybe from a physicality standpoint, it's interesting. It's matchups, right?
Exactly. There you go. It's
Hmm.
matchups because what Michigan did to Ohio State was no fluke.
Right.
Um, I don't think that would be a 3 touchdown game most of the time that the two played, but definitely Michigan would beat them other games. That wasn't like a 1 in 10 shot. It was whatever, 5-5, 6-4. Who knows? We'll never know. But I think it's reasonable to think that the two would split a series to some degree. And so what Michigan did was legit against Ohio State, and then Ohio State, of course, plays a great game against Georgia and shows that they're able to push them to the brink when Tennessee couldn't do that, Oregon couldn't do that, LSU couldn't do that. Certainly, TCU couldn't even shoot. TCU looked like the worst team on their schedule, uh,
Yeah.
and of course, TCU was able to beat Michigan. So you put all those together. If it weren't for matchups, it doesn't make sense. But it makes sense because of matchups.
Yeah. And this is a interesting comment. D Rock Iris, 1 month to prepare is better than 1 week. Obviously, it is. Except for when you're Michigan, because Harbaugh is 0-6, 1-6 in the last bowl games. In all 7 years he's been at Michigan. So there's something wrong with how he's preparing. Maybe it's too much time. I know that sounds silly, or he's not doing the right type of preparation. Um, so I mean, and maybe that's why Ohio State was able to have a better performance. They were able to go all in on Georgia, and if that game's played a week as opposed to a month, maybe we see a similar type of outcome. It turns out not what they did to TCU, but maybe Ohio State doesn't push Georgia to the brink as much. Who knows? Um, and that's another thing too. This that needs to be addressed. And I hope if Jim comes back, that is something that he takes it once he kind of takes the NFL crust out of his eyes. Excuse me, that he has some kind of self reflection, and he acts, and tries to figure out what's going wrong in these bowl games, no matter if it's on the playoff level or anything else, right? Capital One Bowl, Sugar Bowl, whatever it is, Fiesta Bowl. Um, excuse me. Why is he struggling? His teams can look one way in the regular season, but when they get to the bowl game, they look totally unprepared. They don't even look like the same team. That's something that he needs to figure out.
Absolutely, he does.
What do you think it is?
There's only been, excuse me, there's only been, I would say the one game, meaning last year's Georgia game, would be the only game where I felt as though, regardless of preparation, regardless of time invested, that Georgia team was just, they were the best. And whether it was Michigan in their way, Ohio State in their way, whoever you wanted to put in their way, the score might have been different, but they were the best team. They were on a mission. They won the national championship. That was the one time that Michigan was outclassed. But all these other games, shoot, Florida State, Florida, on down the line, South Carolina, and shoot, the Alabama game, I guess maybe we can put that away to a certain extent. But Michigan had a second half lead in that game. So it's not like they've been overwhelmed and not able to stand toe to toe or didn't belong on the field in all those other games.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, and I'm with you with that. I remember watching, Desmond. Des is a huge Alabama fan, so we watched that game together, talking trash to each other, and Michigan, went up early in that game or in the second half. At a certain point, I felt pretty good. So I, I I'm with you regarding that. They haven't been a total disaster, but for some reason they're just not coming out on the winning end. And it's one thing, and it could be recency bias, but it's one thing to lose to a Georgia team where you knew going in that it was an uphill battle, right? You knew that player to player, talent to talent, we're good, but they're a lot deeper than we are. Even if we do match up at a certain positional group, they're deeper than we are at that position, right? So we can't have any follow ups. Really can't have guys taking too many breaks between snaps, because we need all hands on deck. But losing the way they lost against TCU, um, and looking totally unprepared, and doing uncharacteristic things, especially with the self-inflicted mistakes, um, it's one of those things where if it wasn't the previous years of failures in terms of losing, I could write it off as, well, you know what, that was a one-off, not our day. Maybe we get enough sleep the night before, whatever it is. We just had a bad day at the office. Well, there is something critically wrong here, and then it leads you to throw out conspiracy theories, like maybe every offseason Jimmy's always had a foot out the door or something like that. Is he fully focused on the task at hand? And I know that's ridiculous to say, but it's just it gets to a point where after a while you start trying to figure out what's the disconnect. Now, ironically, his mentor, his head former his head coach at Michigan, Bo Schembechler, didn't have a great bowl record either. So I don't know. Maybe there's something he learned from Bo. That yeah, hey, that whatever Bo was doing him, maybe some of the things he took from Bo in terms of how he runs his team, maybe that wasn't one of the things to take, if that was it. But
He's honoring Bo, I guess.
maybe that is. Maybe that's how he's honoring Bo. That's and hey, maybe not the best thing to do in terms of bowl preparation. He has to figure it out. Um, and another thing too, I think the quarterback position as well. You know, if I'm a highly rated quarterback, look, they're in the running for the Davis kid, who's in the 2024 recruiting class. Well, I mean, how do you hope to land that kid when you're doing this? You're playing this musical chairs game. Because JJ's not going to be here forever, right? So you need to have another horse in that stable ready to go. You need to constantly be on the move, constantly looking for ways to improve and solidify and stabilize your program. And the most important position is the quarterback position. You don't have a quarterback, you don't have anything. You're not going anywhere. So, and what I don't want to see is a possible disaster situation, kind of similar to what the way D'Antonio was his last couple of years with MSU, where it seemed like he kind of reached a point that he got kind of stale, maybe not quite as motivated as he was early in his career, and he didn't recruit as well, right? He didn't kind of changed with the times, didn't change his staffing at MSU, and their program in turn became stale itself and really took a downturn very, very quickly. And I worry about that for Michigan. If even if he stays, what is he doing to constantly push this program forward? And I don't see how you can do that when you're constantly looking outwards as opposed to inward. Not trying to get too philosophical, but it's the truth. And you're constantly looking at externally, you can't fix anything internally based on what's going on. So I don't know. And Rico, Jesus, I agree with you here. There's a pretty good chance you could lose Davis. I'm not reporting that, but you do put those things at risk. Um, if you're doing the things he's doing.